Shalom, everyone. Today we're going to do another update, and I think it's going to be very interesting. We've got to admit the last few weeks have been very, very interesting. Anything but boring. Today, Gilla Treibich is with me, and many of you know Gilla. She's been many times to GLC, guided many trips over there. Shalom, Gilla.
Shalom, shalom, Joe. By the way, and shalom to the viewers, to the great viewers of GLC. By the way, I think that they're still running the tours where I'm guiding. Once in a while, people tell me that. So if you see a tour of Israel with the young and pretty tour guide, that was me.
All right.
A few years ago.
Okay. Well, Gila, the big thing was Bibi's trip to the United States, the White House.
Right.
Tell me what your impression of everything is.
Well, it's the whole thing was amazing. You know, we knew that it was good news because Netanyahu is the first foreign leader that was invited by President Trump. So Premier Netanyahu, so that was already a good start. Now, last time Netanyahu was in the States with President Biden, I'm not even sure what hotel they stayed in. And he certainly wasn't even welcome when he arrived in the White House. There wasn't anybody to welcome him. He just went to go, or maybe like one of the staff, and then they took him to President Biden. What a difference, boy! What a difference. First of all, he and his staff are staying at the Blair House, so they have adequate quarters for briefings, for meetings, and it's really wonderful. Now, he came by a limousine.
Yes.
And President Trump watched and made sure that somebody opens the door for him. And he was greeted.
Out of the car.
I beg your pardon?
Out of the car.
Out of the car, yeah.
Yes.
Right. And he himself, President himself, was waiting on the porch outside.
Yes.
And met Premier Netanyahu, and they walked together into the White House. So already, what a difference! It was really amazing.
He shook his hand and they hugged.
Yeah, okay? That's right. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And there was a different atmosphere from the get-go. I mean, just immediately there was a different atmosphere.
Right.
And he had been snubbed in the previous 4 years, and it was like the carpet was okay. Go ahead.
Right, all the way. And also, I mean, you saw that Netanyahu was honored, and you see what a friendly and really cohesive relationship they have, which is, that they're hugging each other is, of course, showing the friendliness and the closeness. Right. So that was pretty incredible. Now, yesterday was the press conference. Now you have to know it was at 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock p.m. your time. It was about that. It was at 1 o'clock in the morning here. And most of the country was up. And we stayed up until almost 3 o'clock because there was the presentations, there was the conference, then there were lots of questions. Amazingly, they allowed for more than a half hour of questions. And then we also, I kind of zip-zapped between the different TV stations to see their reaction. So that was interesting because one station went off, didn't even broadcast the whole thing, okay? Like, what? Who cares? What's the interest in that? Others show the whole thing, and the comments actually, even the most liberal station ended in the end by saying that they were amazed, that it was incredible, and they can't say anything bad about this conference and about what happened in the conference. They all
Well,
quoted from Psalm. I think it's Psalm 135. I think so. I'm not remember the one about when the Lord returned our
right.
when Hashem returned our exiles. We were like dreamers.
Yes.
That's what they all quoted. We were like dreamers. And of course, everybody knows this song because because you sing it on Shabbat and you sing it just before the meal. So when they say we were like dreamers, everybody knows where it's taken from.
Sure.
So it was just amazing, right?
And
So that's the thing. Now here, what the content was. Still, the people who support Netanyahu are absolutely amazed because ever since 1967, ever since President Johnson and since Israel won the war,
right.
there was one paradigm that everybody used all the time. The onus is always on Israel. There's a Palestinian problem, you have to solve it. And there always was, there were plan after plan after plan, the Rogers plan, the Baker plan, there were like endless plans. But they all was always the same, the gist of it was always the same, land for peace. And the Palestinians always turned it down. Some premier gave more, like Ehud Barak gave them a lot. Ehud Olmert gave them even more, and they always turned it down. For the first time, President Trump is getting a different, it's, how did we say, it's like insanity to try the same thing all over and over again and expect a different result.
Right.
But here, President Trump completely reversed the whole paradigm. First of all, I mean, he said that he was going to empty the Gaza Strip of all the population. He was going to send them to different countries. Gaza looks like a demolition field. It's like there's nothing there. There's nothing standing there. It's not a viable place. You can see that from the pictures. But he was talking first about Egypt and then about Jordan. Both said absolutely no. So he said, okay, you come up with a better plan than mine. The onus is not on Israel. The onus is them, on the Arab countries. And that's his plan. What he wants to do. He said all along that Hamas was not going to stay in Gaza. No way you can have Hamas in Gaza. And actually, according to this plan, you're not going to have any Gazans in Gaza. Because the truth is that there's nobody who's not Hamas. You always talk about innocent civilians. They're all Hamas supporters.
Right.
On October 7, there were people in slippers and gowns who came into the kibbutzim and looted and took all kinds of things. They're not military. They're not activists. But anyhow, so that's what they're going to do. And then President Trump said that the Gaza Strip is going to come under U.S. Not sovereignty, but U.S. control. U.S. is going to control it. They didn't say exactly how. And the Speaker of the White House the next day said there's not going to be boots on the ground. There's not going to be any U.S. soldiers there. And it's not going to be, we're not going to do it with U.S. taxpayers' money. So it still remains to be seen what, and we're getting great cartoons showing both Netanyahu and Trump in bathing suits, sipping on a drink with a sign above their heads saying Gaza Riviera.
Oh, that's good.
I know, because he says that President Trump said that he wants to turn the coast of Gaza. Incidentally, it's one of the most beautiful beaches.
Yes.
It's just a magnificently beautiful beach, and he's going to turn it into the Riviera of the Middle East.
You know,
So that's more or less the framework and the general plan that they're talking about.
well, the amazing thing is that the uh, he's out of the box. And I mean, he's famous for being out of the box, coming up with something. But you've had all these plans, nothing has worked.
Yeah.
You've got to try another way. You've
Yeah.
got to have another way.
Yeah.
It's not going to work if you don't.
Right. Let me just read you something. All these plans have always been working on a two-state solution. Israel, of course, took the offer of two-state solution already in 1947, even though the state that was offered to us was much smaller than one we hoped. It did not include Judea and Samaria. It did not include parts of Galilee, but the Prime Minister then, David Ben-Gurion, said, yes, take what you can and we'll work with it. They have right away said no.
Right.
And there's a very good researcher, Dr. Einat Wilf. She was actually one of the people of the super liberal Shimon Peres, the late
Right.
he was prime minister. He was the president. Right. Excuse me. And she has been researching, and she wrote a very good book that's called The War of the Law of Return. And here is what she quotes. This is from the British Foreign Minister Ernest Bevin in 1947. Okay, 1947. This is what he says. His Majesty's government have thus been faced with an irreconcilable conflict of principles. For the Jews, the essential point of principle is the creation of a sovereign Jewish state. For the Arabs, the essential point of principle is to resist to the last the establishment of a Jewish sovereignty in any part of Palestine. To resist to the last the Jewish sovereignty in any part of Palestine.
Right.
So they don't want two states. They don't want a Jewish state and next to the Palestinian state. They want a Palestinian state instead of a Jewish state. And that's what they've been wanting since the get-go. That's
Right.
why they turned down every offer for a state in the West Bank or in Judea and Samaria. What they want is not a state. They want the elimination of the Jewish state. So that's how President Trump took it. I mean, he really understood that's it. That's the principle. That's the actual core of the whole story. So trying once again to go in a two-state solution, give the one this and give one that, it doesn't work.
You know, what you mentioned about 1947 and Bevin. Actually, that statement we find in the Tanakh, two different places. And the most famous is in Psalm 83, where it talks about, it says, do not keep silence, O God, do not hold thy peace and be still, O God, for lo, thy enemies make atonement, and Those and they who hate thee have lifted up the head. They take crafty counsel against thy people and consult against thy hidden ones. They have said, Come, let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Israel
Exactly.
may be remembered no more. And you find it also in the book of Jeremiah.
Right.
Exactly
Right.
the
Right.
same thing. And
Yeah.
so, but government after government has failed to realize that one thing, their objective is no Israel. Their objective is not to have land, but to have
Right.
no Israel. And
Right.
you've got to come out of that box. And so now, as you mentioned, um, Trump has placed it on Egypt, on Jordan, Saudi
Right.
Arabia, come up with solutions.
Right.
And they're saying, no, we can't have this. But now, at the very least, there's going to be some negotiating in areas that there has been.
Never. That has never. Nobody has ever pronounced it or thought about it, or if they thought about it, never said it.
Well, let me ask you some more things on BB's conference with Trump.
Mm-hmm.
There were some arms that were being held back. Those have all been released.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Like incredible amounts of arms to really get Israel ready. And we know that there's big shortage of arms and of equipment. I mean, that's why we are called to help, because they use the money for essentials for buying weapons.
Right.
And then there's never enough left, first for the reservists, and certainly not for another very important group. And that was one of the problems before October, especially under Premier Benny Gantz. Well, he was actually the Secretary of Defense, Gantz. But there's every community, especially the ones on the border, has a group of first responders. So they're armed and they're ready. And if there should be terrorist attack come in, if anything happens in the community, they are always ready and they are first to respond.
Right.
Now, for some reason, they took their weapons and they were not allowed. I mean, like the previous government took their weapons and they were not allowed to keep their rifles at home. They kept them in a hangar, in a special locked hangar. But I mean, when you have a sudden emergency,
right,
you want to find the guy with the key. How is everybody going to get to the depot, to the weapons depot? And there was one of the most horrible things that happened. That they came out with their personal pistols, where you had guys attacking with RPGs.
And there was another thing is that Hamas knew where these weapons were stored.
Exactly.
They knew who had the keys, and they specifically targeted to keep the weapons from the men. The first responders have to have their weapons in their home
with them, right?
Yeah, it's kind of like during the Revolutionary War, we have what were called Minutemen.
Okay.
Because they could grab it in a minute and meet the problem. And here that was taken away.
Right. So, and all the equipment was taken away from them. They didn't have the bulletproof vests and they didn't have the helmet. Now most of those were taken away and devastated by Hamas. And they are the last on the food chain, to be taken care of. So there's a group of a community, Kerem Shalom, that sits right on the fence, and their first responders ask for help to buy helmets. So actually, some of the donations that we had in the David Fund were used to buy some helmets. And next time, if you come on a trip, or when you come on a trip to Israel, and I said already, right? United is starting to fly in, Delta is starting to fly in. So pretty soon you'll be able to book a tour. But
Right.
we can go and see Kerem Shalom and talk to the guys, to the head of the first responders.
Yeah,
Yeah, his name's Yedidia, and he said he'd be honored to host us.
when you mention they're on the fence, that's the fence of Gaza. They're
That's
right
right.
in the border with Gaza,
Right.
and uh, so I'm sure there's more groups like this, more first responders that need the equipment, and
Right.
so there's going to be a continuing need till we get all this taken care of.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
uh, one of the things here that's kind of been amazing is with the previous administration, the recruitment for the armed forces, for the military, uh, had dropped to an all-time low. And now, within a matter of 2 weeks, they're breaking all records for all time. They haven't seen a turnout like this since
Right.
World War II.
Right.
And so now that's leads me to what I wanted to ask. The Israeli military,
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure they were up watching the press conference.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah,
So listen, the opinions are divided. You know, the opinions in the military reflects the opinion in the country.
yes,
But one of the things that I am sure, you know, we getting the new chief of staff.
right.
So first of all, Eyal Zamir. First of all, he is not a paratrooper. He's not a guy from special forces. There was the last chief of staff from the armored forces who really understands the whole map, the whole function of the ground forces was in Yom Kippur War. That was the last one, Bar-Lev. And here we have once again an armored guy. It's a guy not only is the armor, but he also spent a couple of years being in charge, being the CEO of the defense ministry here. So he really has a broad vision, and he has a whole tactical vision of the entire military, not just the special forces and everything.
Right.
And we hope that he'll do a great job. And I'm sure that they ask him questions, and they ask him about what he thinks about this plan and so on. So that's some people were not happy because there were a whole group that worked very closely with the Democratic Party and in America, and they're different opinions. They're different opinions in the military, like in the whole country. But the army will have to go with what the government decides,
Yes.
and they will do it because they're subordinates. I mean, Netanyahu is the commander in chief, so they have to do it. And there was an embargo on huge amounts of weapons. And I don't know if maybe you missed one of the press conferences. A journalist asked President Trump, she said to him, "You released weapons to Israel. You sent masses of weapons to Israel. Why did you do it?" So he said, Trump said, because they bought it. So she said, yes, but President Biden didn't send the weapons. He stopped it. So he says, well, they paid for them. I sent them. Why should I stop them? That's it. It's simple as that.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the things we see frequently now is Trump. Trump is seen as the common sense, or the Republicans are seen right now as the common sense party, and it's a return at least to partial sanity, at least.
Right. Right.
So, Gila, we had, by the way, Roy was unable to be with us today. He's, I understand, sick with the flu.
Yeah, he's down with the flu. There's a lot of people in the country.
Yeah, yeah. Uh, let's talk very briefly about Judea, Samaria, and
Hmm.
about Lebanon. Um,
Right.
and so we've got just a few minutes left, but what's going on in Judea, Samaria? That's an expected hot spot.
Right. There's actually a full-scale war out there, in the northern Samaria especially,
Hmm.
because northern Samaria was entrusted for military safety to the chairman of the Palestinian Authority.
Right.
You call him Abu Mazen. You know him by a different name. But
Mossad?
I beg your pardon?
Mossad? Mossad?
No. The chairman of the I forget his first name. We know him as Abu Mazen, but you know who I mean. He's the chairman of the Palestinian Authority. But of
Okay.
course, all that happened there is that the terrorist groups just grew bigger and bigger, and there were more and more incidents, and there were more and more terrorist attacks. So finally, the army is there now. They're there in the city of Jenin. They're there in the whole northern part of Samaria. They're there in the town of Tulkarm, and it's an all-out war.
Yeah.
Just an all-out war. So that's that. Now, with Lebanon, there's a ceasefire, and it's also not holding. But unlike past agreements, when it's not enforced, Israel reacts, and Israel reacts very decisively, heavily, and very promptly. So it's not quiet there.
Okay. We'll keep an eye on how things are going, and we'll be bringing you updates as things develop, both Gaza, Judea, Samaria, Lebanon, and of course, always in the background, Iran. We're
Right.
getting to our last minute, Gila. I'd like to speak to people about if you'd like to donate to the David Fund and help the Israeli soldiers, help the responders. You can go to the little icon in the corner and scan that. It'll take you directly to the JerusalemTempleStudy.com/David Fund. If you just go to Jerusalem Temple Study, you can make a donation to the David Fund. All of this money we send directly over to Israel. And Gila keeps on top of where it's needed, and then we send it directly to them. There's no overhead. It doesn't go to the ministry here or to GLC. It goes directly to the soldiers and where the needs are.
That's right.
Thank you, everyone, for being with us. And
thank you.
Yes.
And thank you for your tremendous support.
Yes. Thank you.